Your News at 6. Your News at 6 is moments away.
Q, we have just confirmed with Sheriff Troy Peterson that the fatal shooting that occurred here in Biloxi this afternoon involved not only the Biloxi Police Department, but also the Harrison County Sheriff's Department.
But first tonight at 6 o'clock, new developments in the federal charges against Moss Point Mayor Mario King and his wife Natasha.
Like many other businesses, our coast casinos and our casinos statewide were forced to close at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. But something that was unique to casinos here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast was hurricane season.
And of course, power outages across South Mississippi. Lori Freeman with Singing River Electric joins us now with an update. Lori, what can you tell us about the status of the power here in our area? How many people approximately are without power right now?
The scene here at the Hancock Bank just off of Highway 49 here in Gulfport has cleared, but as you can imagine, the scene was much different just a few hours ago.
It was pretty warm today for me, just compared to what we've been experiencing for the last couple of weeks.
Felt like a return to summer.
It did.
It did, but you know, I'll take low 80s any day over the 90s.
There are 3 different agencies here on scene investigating. That is the Jackson County DA's office, MBI, and the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. The officers who were involved in the shooting from the Moss Point Police Department have been placed on administrative leave.
Representative Anderson, I'm sure you, like many of us today, were there watching this all unfold via social media, via the news. What did you think as you saw these events unfold in Washington, D.C.?
Gulfport police tell us this bridge could be closed for as little as 20 more minutes or as long as another hour. So definitely something to keep in mind when you are traveling in and around this area tonight. For now, reporting live in Gulfport, I'm Alison Spann for WLOX News Now.
We have been fortunate in this building to recognize a lot of historically significant people in the history of our police department.
This small museum inside the Gulfport Police Department serves to recognize officers of the past, present, and future. But according to outgoing Police Chief Leonard Papania, there are a few officers who haven't yet gotten their recognition.
It's an important part of our Gulfport police history and the city of Gulfport. And we would like to recognize these 2 officers.
Those officers are Zachariah H. Durr and Malachi K. Lee, the first African-American police officers hired by the Gulfport Police Department back in 1949.
This article is from the Jackson Advocate.
Newspaper articles like this one from the Jackson Advocate dated April 30th, 1949, help tell the story of those officers. This article details their first month on the job, a job Chief Papania says would have been no easy feat in 1949.
There's several articles we found that gave them accolades on arrests they were making and the hard work they were putting in. And, you know, I just look back at that time and what a challenge it would have been. And they took it head on, and everything indicates they did a fantastic job.
Chief Papania's quest to find out more about Lee and Durr came after a chance meeting with the daughter of Zachariah Durr. While the Durr family was able to provide ample information about Officer Durr, including photographs of him in his police uniform, little is known about Malachi Lee.
As of yet, we have not been able to find a family member or a photograph of Malachi Lee.
Based on historical records, the police department knows that Lee died of a heart attack in July of 1950 and was buried in Mount Olive, Mississippi. Gulfport City Council minutes reveal that while Lee died of a heart attack, he died while on the job, and his death was deemed a line-of-duty death. His wife, Olivia Hall Lee, received relief payments from the city after he died.
Officer Lee was a line-of-duty death. One that we have historically never known about nor recognized. And every May we do a police officer memorial, and Malachi Lee will be remembered.
Christy Pierce has been a registered nurse for 14 years and says she's never seen anything like COVID-19.
I wish that I could show you how sick these people were so that people would, you know, these young people who are still getting together that will carry the virus but not necessarily be very sick from it, will stay home.
Hospital procedures have changed in order to protect patients and staff.
So when we see a patient that's starting to change, we immediately have to start gowning up, whereas before we would just be running in the room. We would be, you know, doing our normal things. Well, now we're getting prepared to go into the room because the doors stay shut. It's a negative pressure. It protects that patient. The other patients, it protects us, but we have to have our gear on. I mean, because we can't take care of the community if we get sick.
Nurses have even stepped into new roles to allow their patients some precious FaceTime with family.
A couple of us have used our personal phones to FaceTime family members and let them see the patients because they just want to see them. They've been in here, sometimes they're on life support in here for days and they can't come and they can't see.
Procedures at work aren't all that's changed. Going home comes with a new procedure now, too.
I have a mother-in-law suite in my house, and so I shower out there, and when I'm finished, I have a Clorox wipe out there, a Clorox box, and I wipe everything that I touched coming in and coming out. Most of us are not taking the shoes that we wear here into our house. They're not leaving our car for most of us. We call them our Corona shoes. I have a Corona car.
But despite the stress and worry that comes with fighting this deadly virus, Pierce remains steadfast in her role as a nurse.
I cannot go into a patient's room thinking, what if I catch this virus and take it home to my family? I can't do that. I have to be present for my patient. I have to be focused on my patient. I can't be worrying about my risk. I have to know that the hospital has provided me with the appropriate PPE. I've put it on appropriately. Now I need to do my job.
I feel like the ICU went from a place where we just lost more than we saved.
The last time we spoke to ICU nurse Christy Pierce, it was over FaceTime, and the coronavirus pandemic had only just begun.
I cannot go into a patient's room thinking, what if I catch this virus and take it home to my family? I can't do that. I have to be present for my patient.
Through this entire year, Pierce has remained steadfast in her dedication to her patients. But the health issues plaguing COVID-19 patients in the ICU isn't an easy reality to face every day.
People are spending weeks and months on the ventilator, and you're watching their families and you're getting to know their families because it's weeks and months of them coming in day after day to be with their loved one. And you try and do a weaning trial and they don't pass, or you try and wake them up from their sedation and their anxiety gets the best of them, and it's day after day of that.
Working in the ICU through a deadly pandemic has certainly had a profound impact on Christy's life.
I have a husband who, when I come home, will let me tell him my sad story and he'll listen, and then I put it where it needs to be and keep going. For sure, nurses, absolutely need to recognize that, especially in the ICU, as much death as we've seen this past year, it definitely affected me.
However, now a year into this pandemic, things are finally looking up. 2 months ago, on January the 8th, there were 49 patients with the coronavirus admitted into Singing River hospitals across the coast. On March 8th, there were only 17, with 3 in the ICU and none on ventilators.
We're learning the vaccines. I mean, it's absolutely it's not what it was a year ago. It's a different time in battling COVID right now. We're definitely on the other side of it.
In Pascagoula, I'm Alison Spann for WLOX News Now.